And such an array of like emotions attached to that period of my life. You know, my sense of self-worth and just very broken on so many levels. Just very untrusting of the world around me after that. I feel sad for me, you know, for that young me. I missed out on a period of life there that should have been more joyful, you know, more free spirit. Yeah, when you're raped, it changes how you see the world around you.
So, you've made an allegation of a serious sexual assault. Tell me in as much detail that you can remember what happened.
Like what happened in the room.
Yeah, tell me what happened.
I'm from New Zealand. After university, I was like, going to go and do some travelling now. I'm going to go get cultured. I'm going to go have fun. Went to a lot of gigs. I tried foods I hadn't tried before and just enjoying meeting people. You know, all those different accents together. It's a fun time. London. It's quite an expensive place to live. You know, I had some savings there, but that was chewed through quite quickly. So I made a profile on a job app. People can just go there, upload a CV, have a little bit of a profile about themselves. And I was just looking for, I think like waitressing. Within that 24 hours, definitely. A message popped up on my phone. It was somebody offering me work in an escort agency. You know, I hadn't done escorting work before. It said paying for sex is prostitution and illegal, but paying for somebody's time and company, so escorting wasn't. You know, you'll make 500 you know, a night type thing. Just kind of thought, oh, that sounds easy.
And it wouldn't involve any sex?
Yeah. But I was under the impression that it was illegal to pay for sex. This is the street.
This is light on?
Yeah, the very top. Yeah, that room, see where those white curtains are pulled?
Yeah. That's his place?
He's in there. I don't even want to know what's going on in that room right now.
What is about to happen?
He'll sit you down and, well, he'll ask you things like, do you like sex? What do you like about sex? Are you a party girl? Which, you know, AKA, will you take drugs? You know, it was just really quick. Shaheen gave me some excuse straight away as to why it was in this flat. And then he requested my passport and said he needed to, like, check my right to work. There was a lot of information coming at me all at one time, and including the request to inspect my body. And he was like quite persistent that I needed to do that in order to get the job. Once I went into the room, like he closed the door straight away and locked that door. Everything was just really white. You know, the curtains were white, the walls were white, the duvet was white, the cabinets were white. I was just in a state of, like, panic. I remember, like, being fixated on some sort of filming equipment. Before getting on the bed, I remember him, you know, like, walking around me, like, looking at my body. I remember him, like, positioning me, like, on the end of the bed at one point, you know, and like pulling my legs up. He didn't look at my face whilst he was raping me. I remember like turning my head. Just remember my body just as.
Did you feel able to protest?
No. You know, using my voice was scary because I didn't know how he was going to react. After it happened, he told me to clean up and get ready, and then I would be sent by his driver to this client. Soulmates was the website that Shaheen showed me initially. It had a number of different profiles, the name, the age, I will offer you a great girlfriend experience, things like that. Much later, I discovered the Adult Works website. The Adult Works is a mainstream, very popular platform that Shaheen was using to advertise girls on. And then I saw my profile for the first time and I was like, ooh. It was just a real shock to see my face attached to a profile that I didn't consent to. I didn't create this. And down the right-hand side, it had a list of various services, basically selling me for every service available, like water sports, golden showers, lots of different things. Yeah, including unprotected sex. It made sense as to why the clientele had these expectations of what was going to happen. That man just knew how to break you down to a point where you just feel nothing. Just a very strong, overwhelming, dominant person. And even when there were like moments where I was not inside his premises, I still felt that I had to comply with like his requests. But it wasn't just what he did, it was all those experiences with clients as well, which break you.
Did that sort of overall behaviour have an impact on why you stayed?
I stayed ultimately as long as I did because I was scared. I was scared of him. I was scared that there were consequences to me. I mean, have I broken the law? Am I going to get a conviction now? Am I going to be deported? If I have a disagreement with him, am I safe? This man knew where I lived. He can find me.
So this is the front door. There's a little bathroom. This is the spare room.
I got my phone out and just started filming what I could. I remember like building myself up with that because it felt like a scary thing.
And this is the office. Which has like nothing kind of in it, really. Weird.
Who's going to believe me if I tell them this happened to me? Everything that I filmed in that moment wasn't substantial evidence, but it proved I was there. Gabrielle was a girl that I met there. She'd already been there for days before me. Shaheen had a real issue with us speaking to each other because he didn't want us sharing details about what he had done and was doing. We managed to have a cigarette out the window together, and we had this really short moment. And I remember quite quickly in our conversation, did he rape you? Yeah, I remember her telling me, yeah, he's raped me and he's raped me multiple times. Do you think he's got a video hidden in there of us having sex?
I think so. That is a big problem, actually.
Situations were getting like more risky and dangerous. It's just abuse after abuse. It just cracked. It cracked one day and I was like, I can't, I was so tired. He told me that 2 men had booked me, get ready and go. 1 man is something, 2, no thanks. I remember telling him, no, I don't want to do that. And the way he looked at me was like not normal. His eyes were so still. Like, how dare I challenge him? I remember being like really scared in that moment because it was the first time I had actually challenged him. I could hear somebody coming up the stairs. And I remember telling him, you know, if you don't unlock this door, I'll scream. He unlocked the door and I ran out. I remember like running down the stairs, out the front door of the house, turning left and running up the street. And went straight to bang on the driver's window. The driver said to me, Shaheen's just told me not to let you into the car. But the driver did let me into the car. I remember telling him like he's raping girls. I remember the driver telling me he knew. And he drove me all the way home. I think he was feeling very uneasy himself. I remember asking him and saying to him, you know, the next time you speak to him, record him.
I had 3 girls.
So does it matter?
3 girls have
So then do what you
told me that you raped 3 girls. You have raped 3 girls.
So?
The so, hearing that So, as a response,
So you mean so?
You stupid man,
They told me for a fact. They raped them in the office.
they told me they need to call the police, you understand? This is not your problem. I run this agency 14 years. You're not the first one I fix up.
I really isolated myself after that. I was just existing in a state of fear. I was hypervigilant, I was anxious, I was depressed. I felt dirty, I felt used, I felt, I don't know, like damaged goods or something. I don't know. I definitely, at that moment, was like, I want to go to the police, but I'm scared to go to the police. What are these people going to think of me? That I've made a decision to be an escort, and then, what, you've been raped now? Like...
So, you've made an allegation of a serious sexual assault, which you state happened in April of this year, 2018. Tell me in as much detail that you can remember what happened.
The what happened in the room.
Yeah, tell me what.
I did question why I had to take my clothes off for a job interview, but I didn't know because it was my first time. I didn't know what the protocol was because it was my first time at an escort agency.
In that first interview, I carried my shame into that room, and it was like difficult to just let your guard down and be so vulnerable. I wanted to be strong for myself.
But I took my clothes off and I just did everything he told me to do.
I had a nice officer there. She did her best to make it as comfortable as it could be. And I thought, okay, they'll do something now. Almost immediately after I was out of Soulmates, it was like, I need to move. This person knows where I live. I moved to a new place, and then from that place, I moved into the safe house. I was able to sort of re-establish a healthier routine. There was a lot of expertise in-house. Yeah, I'm very, very grateful for the support I received from that safe house. It was just immense. The police issued me a letter which explained that my allegations of rape were being dropped, which was a bit of a, yeah, that letter really, that was pretty wounding because just wasn't finished. The case wasn't finished. The no further action letter from the police states that there isn't enough evidence to take my case forward. The fact I reported the incident 5 months after it happened, so there's no forensic evidence. I didn't hand my phone over, which they state is a significant obstacle to prosecution. But I handed over copies of all my communications with Shaheen. I handed over multiple videos. I handed over photographs that I had taken. I handed over everything related to the case. And this man continues to run his operation and exploit women, and the system's okay with that. Something had to happen, it had to stop. The police had just closed my case, so I decided to do my own investigation. I encountered the SAFE website through typing Shaheen's name into Google. SAFE stands for Support and Advice for Escorts. And within the website, I found multiple chains relating to Shaheen from 2011 up. There were girls in there calling out Shaheen rape, saying this man did rape girls. This is how he operates. He'll invite you to an interview. He'll ask to inspect your body. He needs to check you for diseases. Yeah, absolutely wild. And I could see thousands of views. And I was just thinking to myself, why didn't I read this earlier? Girl talks about rape, yeah.
This date from 2011, so saying the manager will attempt to have sex with you at the first interview.
I reached out to Gabriel after I had exited and I was like, hey, can we meet straight away? She's like, yes, we need to talk. And I got to know Gabriel quite well.
And that's one review. There is so many. We met 3 days after I started. We are both smokers, so we had to smoke in the kitchen because that was the only place where we were allowed to smoke.
Do you remember what you said? Something you said to her?
I asked her if she had been raped too. Yeah. And that was the case.
What did she say?
She said yes. And when she described it, she said exactly same things I say, same process, same kind of interview. I've been abused in the past, and I felt in the same way. I felt that you just had to be used and abused, and I felt that bad that I was about to give up on everything.
How many times in total did he rape you?
4 times. The second time was really painful. He had this cucumber with the plastic around the cucumber, and he told me to spread my legs, remove my knickers. And he did penetrate me very, very hard. It was so painful, I just wanted to stop. After that, he told me, wash yourself, you have to go to work. So I go to the bathroom and I was bleeding. In my vagina was bleeding. I was in pain. I could not work after that. And he was a bit angry because I was like, I can't see anyone. But at the same time, in my head, I was like, if I go somewhere else, I'm going to be safe.
You go somewhere else, you'll be...
Safer. Even if I see someone else.
Not in his apartment?
No.
I also met a girl named Hannah who was raped by Shaheen. This was 3 years before me, in 2015. She reported her rape to the police and, yeah, her case was dropped.
If I think back, I'm like, shit, I got raped.
Yeah.
A lot of times.
Are you okay?
I'm just, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just emotional.
Yeah, it is.
So the last night, we got into an argument, and then he threatened to shoot me. And he reached under his desk, and in my head, I went, oh shit, I will die. So I peg it out the door, I run downstairs, and I decided to call the police. I think in my head, I hoped he had a gun. Yeah, so then, like, he could be stopped. Police turn up, and they were useless. The police were useless. And I think it hurts, like, that nothing was done, and, like, there were so many opportunities to stop Shaheen. And if they did a proper investigation into my complaints, we would not be sitting here.
I was checking my profile on Adult Works quite frequently. Shaheen didn't take it down. He said he would, did not take it down. My sense of worth was being crushed by seeing my own profile, which I have not consented to, develop. And here I am sitting in a safe house wondering who the hell Shaheen is sending out as me. On the Adult Works platform, you could go and click on a profile and book a girl. So I decided to book myself off the internet. I had some assistance from my friend. I think my friend was like, this is an absolutely crazy idea. So I went to a hotel, had my friend make the booking.
Hello?
Hi, what's the room number?
412.
Alright, I'm gonna give a quick call to your room telephone. If you answer the phone, just tell me you're genuinely there.
Is she definitely the girl in the picture, is she?
Yeah, this is her pictures.
And is she from New Zealand?
Yeah.
I just had sort of one goal in that moment, which was to get her number. It wasn't to tell her. I had also worked at the agency because I didn't know the extent of her own situation with Shaheen. Just felt a bit dangerous. This girl showed up and she was nothing like me. She didn't have a New Zealand accent. She didn't have light hair. She was a Romanian girl. I remember her being sort of shy. I think she was expecting you know, that there was a man on the other side of the door. So I told her, you know, I'm not looking for sex, I'm not looking for anything like that. I just like, you know, want to have a chat. I explained to her that I came from a sex work background. The moment I said that, like, she was very open. And then I had minutes. I had minutes before her phone went off. And she said, I have to go. You know, she was telling me that the agency wasn't good. And just before she left, I said, I'm going to give you my number if you want to contact me, and I'll help you find better work. And she said, thank you, and left. She contacted me saying sorry she had to leave. You know, her boss needed her to go. And I was like, okay, cool. I did eventually tell her. I used to work for Soulmates, talked a bit about like going to the police. And it was really funny because she told me, she said, oh, Shaheen spoke about this girl who went to the police. The police didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, you know. And here I'm thinking, he's talking about me. And he's telling the victims going through his door that nothing will happen if you go to the police, because that's what happened. I just went on a real deep dive to get as much information as I plausibly could about Shaheen. I have gone through Shaheen's Facebook statuses, all pretty closely. They call me Draculine of the West End, is what he's got under his name. And then his cover photo is a shot taken outside the property, pointing to the window where I was raped. Why would you pick that photo to put as your cover photo? October 25th, 2014. I don't need the right from anybody. I am taking it. September 14th, 2013. House party with 10 bottom shells. And you know what's going on there.
What is going on?
Yeah, it's girls in his flat, it's victims. Shaheen is not shy to put himself out on the internet. He has videos on YouTube. He was an actor and a singer and a songwriter, and all of which aren't true. There's a video on YouTube.
What is he trying to do by making a video like this? What's his
I think he's trying to sell the idea that he has fame, that he's highly important. He wants to be famous, I think.
What's it like for you when you see his face again in these videos?
For a while, I didn't really want to, like, look at his face or, like, think about his face. Because the image of him is so strong in my head, you know, I can't not unsee his face now. I found another document online, and to me it is a public catalogue of rape victims of Shaheen's. That's what it is to me. This document is a decision from a High Court judge who refused Shaheen's grant for permanent residency in the UK in light of these alleged sexual assaults. The document points out 11 non-convictions since 2008. He threatens to shoot, stab, and kill women, as well as several alleged rapes, again sharing similar accounts. The judge ruled that he was a pimp, that he had a short temper, and that he was a serious threat to women. What a disgrace. The authorities let hundreds, if not thousands, of women down. What is that, 365 days in a year? He could have multiple victims in one day raped. Traumatization after traumatization. And yet the police closed my case saying that there wasn't enough evidence. I don't know, it was just kind of like, what is wrong with the world?
Sam wrote to us in 2019. She wrote us this very interesting letter, which gripped me straight away. And she was speaking on behalf of herself and two other victims. So they came in to our office, and when I first met Sam, I was impressed straight away. I mean, I'd been impressed by her letter. I had a sense of her as someone who was very determined, for whom it was never just about her. It was always her and the other two victims, and any number of other unnamed victims out there. She always had that in her mind. We asked her to tell us a bit about her story and what this man had done. And she tried, but she was really, really finding it hard at times to get the words out. I just remember it being extremely powerful and extremely upsetting to hear her talking about it, and to, in a way, the things that she wasn't able to say, you know, it said more than what she was able to say. So from there, it really became about challenging the police over this and trying to press for the investigation to be reopened.
The first time I was in the safe house, I stayed a little bit over a year, and then I was in private accommodation with friends, and then I became an illegal immigrant, I guess. My visa ran out and I didn't have the right to work, so I couldn't support myself independently. I was living below the poverty line. I'm moving back to the safe house, for an unknown period of time.
And there's no rent to pay?
No.
Do you find there's a lot of rules in the safe house?
Yeah, I don't know. I have to get my head around it sometimes. And that's probably because I just don't trust. I don't trust people all the time.
You had quite a tough first few years of your life.
I mean, yeah, I was born in Russia and I was put in this orphanage because my mother couldn't look after me. So I was taken away, and it made things complicated. It made things really complicated. But yeah, it is what it is. Everyone's, been dished something.
In life?
Yeah.
I knew that there is a process in place to challenge decisions, and anyone can do it. It's an internal complaints process. You can seek a review by a more senior officer. And actually, by the time we got to the meeting where they were supposed to explain why they dropped the case, they had done a bit of a U-turn and decided they should reopen it.
To learn from Kate that the police were going to be reopening my case, I mean, obviously it was good news, but also I was thinking, what's next? Who knows? You know, like, I don't know what's next at this point. When Kate informed me that the police had lost my VRI, video recorded interview, so there was a string of emails that was sent to my lawyer. It's a conversation between multiple officers on this case, looking for solutions for that lost evidence. I'm just going to read a little section out of here. In 2018, matters were presented to the CPS as rape. The 3 ABE masters are now missing. There are significant gaps in the case. Sad for the victims, but not necessarily our job to recover. So in my view, as before, keep away from the 2018 for now and focus on the current. We have some cracking new, in capital letters, witnesses, and if all goes to plan, there will be 1 or 2 or 3 girls working with him when he is arrested. This will be recent evidence of his enterprise. It just makes you feel shit, doesn't it? It's just trying to keep us on in case, and that's what they say here too, is try and keep us in case they need us.
Obviously, you know that we're here to talk about an allegation you made sort of mid-2018. So what was the expectation of you when you went to these clients?
When I was expressing to him in this hotel room that I wasn't okay. But he, yeah.
When you say you weren't okay, just describe that in a bit more detail.
I couldn't. It was just difficult. Difficult to say certain things sometimes to these people because they already had their own expectations, because Shaheen had already said to them that that was okay anyways, to do whatever the fuck you want with us.
We're outside the police station now. I've returned to do another VI.
VI?
Yeah, video interview. This is my 3rd time. Just a few weeks back, I was here for almost 6 hours completing an interview, and the disc didn't work when they went to check it. It's broken. So yeah, this is why I'm here today. Last time I walked out and all these boxes in my head, yeah, the lids are sort of just left ajar, and it sort of left me exposed. I felt really exposed. And it's taking my memory back into a time where I was quite helpless. I don't like that feeling.
Right, so the time by my phone is 10:56. It's Monday the 14th of December 2020. I only propose to cover what we're missing.
So I heard from Max yesterday, Officer Max, and Shaheen has now been charged with rape in connection with your allegations.
Really?
Yeah. So he's facing 5 charges in connection with your account. 2 charges of rape, 2 charges of sexual assault by penetration, and 1 charge of controlling prostitution. Again.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That feels like a big weight off that push. Cool.
I mean, I think well done you, honestly, because this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, after all that.
Do you want to know how many charges he's facing in total?
Yeah.
40?
40.
So from that day where you went to the police, and then you get told there's nothing here, to 40 charges. And you never know what's going to happen, but I'm tentatively optimistic that it's going to be hard for him to make all that go away.
That's really good news. That's the best news, actually. That's really cool.
Yow. Hi.
Good news.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, you look like you had good news.
Yeah, really good news. The CPS has approved the rape charge, so...
No.
Yeah, it's sick. It's sick.
My God.
It's sick.
Oh, that's such good news.
It's good, eh? Really pleased about this.
Do you believe in anything like the Loch Ness Monster or like a Yeti?
Not really, I don't think so. I'd like to see it. Abby's my partner. She comes from a very different background from myself. You know, does Santa Claus count? Yeah. And we're both pretty outdoorsy people, so it's nice to go away and do something we both like together, and yeah, definitely. Where are you looking?
That's you.
Oh, wow.
A whole host of them.
It's been quite special that she's been able to kind of handle all this. It's a personal thing, and it's not always an easy thing. It's nice to have that support, and, you know, the amount of times I've gone, oh, you know, just get so upset by something, really, you know. Yeah, she helps bring me back down, and she'll remind me why I'm still here and the importance of this case, and she'll remind me the impact my voice has so that I get the justice I deserve, as well as the justice for many others who haven't been able to voice themselves necessarily so easily. Because sometimes you do get so overwhelmed by things. We are outside Tottenham Police Station so that I can view and what do they say, a ID parade.
Was it easy to recognize him?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a feeling when it first comes up. Yeah. And just swallow a little bit. The police had me sign a document, and I didn't like the way it was written, that I had sex with this man. So I corrected it, that I was raped by this man. You've just completely disregarded why I'm here in the first place. I'm not hugely psyched to be here today.
Why not?
I feel like I'm having to sort of declare my innocence over communications I've had with another victim because of this idea of collusion.
I think the police have been conscious that one line of attack that the defence might use is because Sam was such a rock, actually, for the other two victims who reported him in 2018, that almost might somehow undermine her credibility. I think the suggestion was that in any case where you've got a number of victims telling a similar story, on one level, clearly that supports the prosecution case, that suggests they're all telling the truth. But on another level, it can allow the defence to try and suggest that there's been collusion or that the women have discussed their accounts with each other.
Hi.
You're right.
Yeah. 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 Fun times.
You feeling nervous?
Yeah, a little bit. I don't really feel like being here for this particular interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel, yeah. Don't like having to prove my own innocence. I don't like that feeling.
No, I know. But I do think that the police and the CPS at the moment see you as a credible victim. It's really hard for sexual offence cases to make it to trial. They so often don't. That you are one of the rare ones where they obviously think they can prove the case.
Yeah.
So I would remember that at the same time. Hold on to that.
Over it.
I hate that they've made you feel like that. I'm really sorry.
Just over it.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is the last time I have to come back here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so I met her back in 2018 when I ordered myself off the internet.
Have you ever colluded with her?
No.
Around making any allegations?
No, not that I mean I've shared a hatred with her, if that's collusion.
Okay, no. But have you, for instance, have you told her what to say to anybody or anything of that nature?
I don't think so. I've just told her where she can get, support.
What was the purpose of the contact? The first time you met her, to let's say today.
Yeah. Well, the first time was to see who was behind my profile. Okay. And the second time was to see if she's okay. Yeah.
Okay. So the purpose of your continued
just wanted to check she was okay and that she had help. I wanted to check she was okay, that she had help, and that if she did have the appropriate help, perhaps she would be more inclined to share deeper experiences.
that may have actually in turn been helpful, you know, because she was in a lot of pain. Yeah. I don't feel like I did a wrong thing by contacting her. I shouldn't be made to feel like I've done a wrong thing. I shouldn't be made to feel like caring is the wrong thing to do here.
How long have you known?
Since April 2018.
Okay, thank you. Are you in regular contact?
I probably go through waves.
How do you know her, like, as a person? What's your...
I only know her through the shared soulmates. I know her through soulmates.
It made me scared to speak to particularly any of the other girls. To know the fear that came in of like, am I going to damage this case by speaking to somebody? Am I not allowed to? Like it just was, I was questioning who I couldn't even speak to, and including my own lawyer. It put me in a bit of a position where I felt like my support network was a little bit fragile. I was a bit fragile.
What did this letter or email from the police say?
He said, it appears that the existence of the filmmaker has been deliberately hidden for a good period of time, and I have now been tasking with reviewing all the material he has. I will need to take a further statement about that also.
So the police are saying that you deliberately withheld the fact that you were making this film with me, right?
Yeah.
But also, we look back at 2019 when you and I first started filming. The police investigation seemed to be going nowhere, and then they closed your case.
Yeah. Just coming at me and asking me to hand over something that has felt quite rewarding in all of this chaos, actually. But at the end of the day, they needed to listen to me better. They needed to believe everything out my mouth, everything that was out anyone else's mouth. And I think you know, it feels like a right invasion of my privacy, of my own rights, to do something for me. You know, I'm allowed to share my story because they're not sharing my story, they're sharing theirs.
So I've just come out of the court. There's no resolution yet. But I did find out that the main trial against Shaheen has been delayed for maybe as much as a year. And that's going to be tough news for Sam. At the end of the day, the judge deferred a decision. You know?
Yeah.
It transpired in court that there was a hearing the day before, and that about vacating the case or putting the main case back,
Really?
And the court has agreed to delay it.
Why? So what? Sorry, what? They're going to delay the trial now. They are going to delay it again. Why?
Well, it's hard for me to know because this is the first thing I heard is when I got into the court, and it's just only me picking between the words that the judge said. So I've got no other knowledge, but the judge did say this, so I think it's pretty much reliable.
The trial was now postponed. Postponed a year? That's a long time to wait. And some of the other victims dropped off from supporting the prosecution. Everything was a bit harder.
Hey, how are you?
Drop it like it's hot.
Okay. The police are not getting access to any of our footage.
Really?
Because of the judge's ruling.
Really? Cool. I was just expecting some bad news, Richard. I honestly was expecting some. That's really awesome.
Yeah. So, Sam, you got a new friend?
Yeah, this is Charlie. He's a happy pup. He's 10 weeks today. I've wanted a dog for a really long time, and I think its trial's not too far away. I just think it's really good for my mental health. I've had sort of waves of anxiety at times, and he's certainly helping with that. So, yeah, I think he's bringing lots of love. Bringing lots of love, aren't we?
Sam, I think, will be a central witness. I mean, she's been told specifically by the officer in the case that her testimony is considered particularly powerful, the interview she's given, and the defence are going to come after her.
Please mind the gap between the train and the platform.
It always comes down to the credibility of the victim. Mostly these cases will be one person's word against another.
Yeah, I don't really know how I'm feeling other than nervous.
The defence will be playing, I think, on kind of myths and stereotypes about how a victim will behave.
How's my regrowth looking? Is it 10 out of 10?
And the fact that there was a delay in reporting, even though it's not a long gap in the grand scheme of things. I fear that there are probably people who struggle to take the same approach to consent when you're talking about someone who turned up for a job at something that was advertising itself as an escort agency, that they wanted or expected to have sex. But of course, that's not how consent works. You don't sign away your right to say no when you turn up for a sex work job, even if that is what Sam had been expecting. I think Sam is going to find it difficult even to be questioned about the offence itself. I mean, the way that the defence will present in cross-examination is that they will put their case to her. So even when she's saying, no, it wasn't like that, it didn't happen like that, they will put to her that she's a liar.
Been, 4 years, 8 months since events took place. I think that's right. Yeah, so it's quite a long time leading up to this particular moment. It sort of feels kind of surreal.
How do you feel about the possibility of seeing him face to face again?
I won't see him face to face because I'll have a screen. He can't see me, I can't see him.
Oh, you can't see him either.
I wouldn't want to look at him, I wouldn't want to acknowledge him. It's kind of a weird and uncomfortable thought to think if he is there, yeah, I don't know, just, yeah. Yeah, that's where I'm at with this right now. Yeah, I gave it my best shot. I gave it my best shot. I found parts of that really, really challenging, and being under pressure and trying to respond was just, yeah, it felt quite intense. And I feel like if I could go back, there's things I would have said now. Yeah, I didn't like some of that at all, but I got through it. Yeah, I got through it, so.
Really? Really? Yay! Seriously? Amazing. Okay, cool. Oh my god, really? All time? Yes! Oh, yes, yes! Cool. Yeah. All five! All five! All five cats, babe!
It's nice to get to the finish line and there be a positive outcome. Being believed makes me feel validated. It has helped me let go of some of the deeper feelings. Yeah, I like to think I've done okay, despite everything. I've done okay. I've come out the other end and I'm on my feet, moving forward. And I think the main thing is that he's now off the streets. He's no longer a hazard. He's no longer a threat. So I'm safe, and everyone else is safe from him too. I think that's the biggest thing.
các bạn, hôm nay là bài Chuyện tình Thảo Nguyên của nhạc sĩ Trần Tiến. Bài hát này rất nổi tiếng qua giọng hát của ca sĩ Trần Thu Hà. Đây mình hát với cây đàn ukulele. Kênh của mình là kênh Đức Phượng Guitar Giải Trí. Trời chiều ngày em gái vẫn đi trên thảo nguyên xanh, chip 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 lêu lêu lêu, ô lêu ô lêu, vui từng bầu nước mắt tới chàng trai yêu, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, em vui như chim hót trên quê hương bao la, em như con suối xanh trong ô lêu, rồi từng ngày em đến đám chăn bò vui sao, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, chàng nào lòng cũng nhớ thương em, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, ai cũng tranh lên nương giấy, tranh săn hương săn này, tiếng sao ai cũng tha thiết, em biết chọn tình yêu ai, ô lêu, tiếng sao ai cũng tha thiết, em biết chọn tình yêu ai, ô lêu, rồi một chiều xa vắng có anh chàng thương mình, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, trở về làng quê cũ với cây đàn trống xưa, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, đôi chân anh thôi leo núi, đôi tay anh thôi chơi đàn, đôi mắt anh buồn xa xăm nhìn em, để rồi người con gái chót đem lòng yêu anh, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, dừng về chiều in bóng dáng hai người bên nhau, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, em đưa anh qua núi, đêm đêm anh nghe em đàn, năm tháng đi qua êm ấm trong căn nhà nhỏ tranh vênh, ô lêu, đôi khi tình yêu vẫn thế, yêu nhau chỉ vì yêu nhau, ô lêu. Trời chiều người em gái vẫn đi trên thảo nguyên xanh, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, người từng gầu nước mắt tới chàng trai yêu, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, em vui như chim hót trên quê hương bao la, em như con suối xanh trong ô lêu, rồi từ ngày em đến đám chăn bò vui sao, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, chàng nào lòng cũng nhớ thương em, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, ai cũng tranh lên nương giấy, tranh săn hưu săn nai, tiếng sao ai cũng tha thiết, em biết chọn tình yêu ai, ô lêu, tiếng sao ai cũng tha thiết, em biết chọn tình yêu ai, rồi một chiều xa vắng có anh chàng thương mình, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, trở về làng quê cũ với cây đàn trống xưa, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, đôi chân anh thôi leo núi, đôi tay anh thôi chơi đàn, đôi mắt anh buồn xa xăm nhìn em, để rồi người em gái chót đem lòng yêu anh, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, dừng về chiều in bóng dáng hai người yêu nhau, chip 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 lêu lêu, ô lêu, em đưa anh qua núi, đêm anh nghe chơi đàn, năm tháng đi qua êm ấm trong căn nhà nhỏ tranh vênh, ô lêu, đôi khi tình yêu vẫn thế, yêu nhau chỉ vì yêu nhau, ô lêu.
During a harsh Michigan winter, the body of a young man is found viciously murdered and left in a snow-filled ditch.
Here, the victim was beaten and stabbed to death.
When reality really set in, I was completely numb.
Who would do that? I mean, that's crazy.
Detectives quickly wade through numerous suspects.
This is a violent assault. You want to focus on relationships.
Who might want to hurt him? Who did he have contacts with?
Could the snowy crime scene give investigators the clues they need to find their killer?
Temperatures were below freezing, and snow accumulation over the past week had been over 1.5 feet.
It actually helped solidify the whole case.
On the east side of Lake Michigan, between South Haven and Kalamazoo, sits Van Buren County, home to the small city of Bangor.
Bangor is a very small town. It's one of those, you have a main street, you blink, you're gonna miss it.
It's a very rural area. There's blueberry farms, there's wooded areas. Houses are fairly far apart.
So fishing and hunting is definitely a big part of the way of life. Hunting season for deer hunting is like a holiday.
With winters lasting half the calendar year, locals here are no strangers to the snow.
The winters there can be cold. There's a lot of lake effect snow that comes in from the west.
The area averages 90 inches of snow a year, and much of it is lake effect snow. And it's produced when cold winds blow over the relatively warmer lake, and it can be really tough to predict where those bands are going to set up.
Which means residents have to be prepared for anything.
We could get pounded on with snow, or they're predicting a lot of snow and we get nothing.
When cold air, which usually comes from Canada, moves across the warmer lake water, the moisture is transferred into the lower atmosphere. The air rises, clouds form, and they grow into narrow bands that can actually produce 2 to 3 inches of snow an hour, sometimes even more than that. But wind direction is key to determine which areas see the most snow.
If the weather conditions were just right and the temperatures were low enough, you would know that the wind was going to blow over the lake and the water would evaporate and hit up into that jet stream and literally is a snow machine.
And in December 2002, Bangor was experiencing a typical Arctic winter, with temperatures dipping into the single digits and nearly a foot of snow on the ground, when one of their own is mysteriously murdered in broad daylight. On a freezing December afternoon, an unusual call comes into the Michigan State Police.
60th Street is a dirt road, kind of a rural road, some ditches on either side, sparsely populated.
Troopers quickly arrive to the location and meet with the caller.
It was very cold that day, and the road was snow-covered. You would never know that it was a dirt road because the snow and ice had packed it so much.
The week prior, the area had seen a few days of snowfall, so there was snow on the ground, and the temperature never got above freezing.
There, off to the side of the road, police see the body.
It was readily discernible to them that there was a dead body laying in the ditch, because the contrast between the blood and the body and the snow were very apparent.
The victim was laying with a tree branch laying on top of him in the ditch off the roadway, approximately 12 to 15 feet.
There was suspicion that he just might have been killed by a hit-and-run driver.
But the theory seems strange to police.
There's not very much traffic on there at all. So for somebody to be hit out there would be unlikely.
And a closer look confirms this was no car accident.
They identified multiple stab wounds and blunt trauma to the head.
There were defensive wounds that were found on his arms and his hands and his front side.
Appeared the victim was beaten and stabbed to death. This is a violent assault.
Troopers scour the area and find evidence on the icy road where the attack most likely started.
Appeared to be a disheveled area, a lot of foot traffic appearance of a struggle in the snow. There's a hat laying in the snow along with some broken eyeglasses.
And it doesn't appear to be a mugging.
During the search of the victim's belongings, they did find packages of venison in his pockets. His wallet was still on him.
There was really no apparent evidence of a robbery.
Police determined the victim is 19-year-old Christopher Green, who lives just down the street. Christopher Green was born on April 23, 1983 in Bangor, Michigan, one of two children.
He lived with his family in their home on 60th Street, lived with his older sister and his parents.
Christopher was my baby brother. He was only like a year younger than me.
Right from the start, Christopher faced some serious challenges.
When Christopher was born, they found out he had congenital heart disease, so he had to have several surgeries. One of his valves was faulty.
But that didn't stop him from growing up strong.
He would go outside, he would play, he would do normal kid things. We liked to go camping with Dad and fishing and anything that was outdoorsy. We did a lot of that. His doctor did advise not to do anything strenuous, but for the most part, he was pretty normal.
In 1998, Christopher entered high school and was known to be kind-hearted and gentle.
He liked to fish, liked to draw, somewhat quiet, but he was just general, overall, nice kid.
He also liked to tinker around with mechanical things. He would pull things apart all the time, like take them apart, see how they work, put them back together.
By the spring of 2002, Christopher had graduated from high school and was figuring out his next steps.
He loved to go fishing. He was just starting to get into hunting.
He had another buddy that lived a little bit on down the street that he would hunt with and do different things with.
After his big sister left for college, Christopher found work that summer at a local blueberry farm.
There's a lot of lower lands that are suitable for blueberry bushes, so there's a lot of blueberry-type farms in the area.
A lot of teenagers will pick blueberries during the summer months for extra money. It's nice income for school clothes and whatnot.
That's when Christopher became close with a 17-year-old girl he knew from the neighborhood, Lisa Cousins.
They had met each other at a blueberry farm that they had been working at that summer. They got to be friends. And they went out a few times.
Lisa lived down the road from us. We all rode the same school bus to school. She seemed pretty nice. I think he just fell head over heels.
It's the happiest he'd ever been. Christopher's life was just where he wanted it to be.
He never really expressed anything that he was interested in doing. Like, he wanted to get a job and just live a good life.
But all that vanished on a cold December day when investigators find Christopher's lifeless body in a ditch down the street from his home.
Christopher Green had been beaten up. He had been stabbed. Who would do that?
Thanks to the Michigan winter, state police are about to uncover a snowy trail leading to a tale of love, jealousy, and ultimately, murder. On a freezing afternoon in December of 2002, Michigan State Police are on 60th Street in Bangor after finding the body of 19-year-old Christopher Green, who was viciously attacked and left in a snowy roadside ditch.
It was obvious that there was a fight. Christopher Green had been stabbed, beaten up with, not just fists, but with something else. They did find a large branch across his body.
At the crime scene, Michigan State Police and CSI search for clues in the snow.
Temperatures were below freezing, and snow accumulation over the past week was over a foot, so the roads would have been covered in a thick amount of ice and snow.
Being in Michigan, we deal with weather every day. You kind of take it for granted. Detectives and police officers, again, have to be prepared for no matter what the weather is.
That's when investigators noticed something critical.
Well, the one thing good about having snow on the ground is that it leaves a trail.
There were several footwear impressions around the area of the body, distinct footwear impressions that were distinguished from the victim's footwear.
When you're following footprints, you can sometimes tell if someone was running, if they're dragging their heels through the snow. So you can definitely see them dragging their feet through the snow.
But only one set of footprints walks away.
And you could see a set of footprints leaving the scene, leading to the north through the snow, parallel to the roadway.
Snow is easy to make an impression in, and so they knew that they were dealing with one person.
With a vulnerable location, CSI rushed to cast the footwear impressions that remain in the snow.
They know that snow can change, it can really evaporate, it can melt, it can be disrupted by wind.
Being so close to Lake Michigan, lake effect snow is common there, and it can be unpredictable with snowstorms and wind popping up unexpectedly.
So they cover them with either a tent of some sort or get it casted right away.
They immediately blocked off the area so that they could secure the evidence. They took photographs of the footwear. They made footwear castings.
Casting of a footwear impression in the snow, typically when you pour in the mold, it tends to generate heat and you don't want to lose your footwear, so they spray it with like a waxy film and then they'll pour in a casting material and that preserves the footwear impression.
Meanwhile, troopers follow the trail.
The troopers on scene followed the foot tracks through the snow back onto 60th Street, and then they lost the foot tracks.
Unfortunately, multiple vehicles drove over the tracks in the road unknowingly. But by following the shoe prints in the snow, police make another important discovery.
The knife blade itself was left behind. We believe the knife was broke during the altercation. That's the amount of force that was being used to stab him.
This particular knife was a kitchen-style steak knife, so it's a thinner blade, and they do break.
But the killer must have taken the handle with him. As Christopher Green's body is removed for an autopsy, troopers canvass the neighborhood.
The investigators will start contacting the residents that live in close proximity to the crime scene. Who is home at the time?
They were looking for anyone that could be a suspect and their footwear and any other evidence that they might find.
They begin with the man who found the body and called 911. He says he lives across the street and clearly noticed the body on his way home from the auto parts store.
When you have snow, I think the contrast between a dead body and anything that's not white is really accented. So it made for the homeowner to notice it quicker.
The man tells police that after he parked, he walked down his driveway to get a better look and was shocked at the sight. That's when he ran to his neighbor's house, 23-year-old Ray Berry, to call the police.
He didn't have a phone, and cell phones weren't prevalent back then. So Ray Berry had grabbed the phone and handed it to him to make the phone call.
His shoes were taken from him because they wanted to either include or exclude him as having been involved from the footwear impressions that were around Christopher's body.
It's obvious they're not a match.
They would have searched the house and followed up with the store, and they were quick to establish that he was not the suspect in this crime.
Investigators go to speak with Ray Berry, but no one's home, and none of the other neighbors on the street heard or saw anything. But police feel confident that the killer is someone that Christopher knew.
With the amount of injury and blood and the stab wounds, the aggressor meant to kill him. He was a targeted victim.
There's a bad relationship there for sure. So narrowing down who the suspects were, you want to focus on relationships.
Troopers next head to Christopher Green's home to deliver the heartbreaking news to his family.
The family was devastated. It was a small family to begin with, and Chris was very well liked at home, got along with his family.
I'm like, this is some kind of sick joke, right? Nothing happened to my brother. But then when reality really set in, I was completely numb.
Christopher's mom tearfully tells detectives that Christopher left around 10:30 a.m. to bring his friend Benny Washington some venison.
Chris was a giving, kind-hearted guy, he wanted to share some of his venison with his friend. And that's when he left that morning to walk to his friend's house on 60th Street, which is south of where he lives.
He would leave for, a few hours, but he always returned. But then on that day, he didn't return. My mom started getting worried because it was cold.
The temperatures can drop really quickly in the winter after the sun sets, roughly around 5 p.m. or so. And the temperatures can get dangerously cold. I'm talking in the teens and the single digits, so you can't really be outdoors for long.
When Christopher did return home, they started to make phone calls like, where is he? Mr. Green came home from work shortly after 5 and saw emergency trucks, people gathered around about a half mile south of his home.
That's when they say they feared the worst. As investigators continue to speak with the Greens, they get several persons of interest in Christopher's murder. Will the snowy shoe prints lead them to his killer?
The weather really does help you, and it also can hurt you a lot.
He was found about a half a mile down the road from the house in a ditch. I think that the person that wanted him dead for whatever reason had to have been a strong person. They really put up a fight with my brother.
The strongest evidence police have are footprints left in the snow near his body.
I only found one set of footprints leading from the crime scene, and those are the footwear that were photographed and casted.
While speaking with the family, police have narrowed down the time frame of the murder between 10:30 a.m. and 3 p.m. that day.
He was headed from his home, south on 60th Street, to see a friend and to bring some venison to them, and he never returned home.
State police want to speak with Christopher's friend Benny Washington. While some stay with the family, other investigators head down the road to see if he's home. When investigators break the news to him, Benny is visibly upset at the death of his friend.
I know that they were really good friends, and I'm sure that he took it hard.
Benny tells police that he wasn't home when Christopher was attacked. He says he was in the nearby city of South Haven all day and didn't get home until after 7 p.m.
Benny was not home and nobody else was at the home, but he did make mention that he was getting some meat from the victim.
He was ruled out as a suspect. He was nowhere near the crime scene. He had no motive, and they were friends.
It was believed he did make it to the residence at Benny's house. He was walking back north on 60th when the attack occurred.
Then, while at the end of the street, troopers noticed that Ray Berry is now home.
Later that evening, Ray Berry, his house was really in front of the crime scene, a car had pulled into the residence while the police were still searching the crime scene area, and were coming to pick up Ray Berry from the house. Detectives went to the house to identify who was there, because earlier that day they had gone to the house and nobody answered. But now somebody had pulled in the driveway, so they wanted to go talk to him. It was at that time they had made contact with Ray Berry.
He did indicate that he saw Christopher Green walking by his house.
But he says he didn't hear or see anything after that until his neighbor came to his door wanting to use his phone to call 911. He said he left shortly after that to visit family. Troopers see his shoes don't match the prints left in the snow across the street.
Ray Berry, there was really no reason to think that he wanted to kill Christopher Green. But since he lived across the street, he certainly became a person of interest.
Back at the Green family home, troopers ask Christopher's parents if there is anyone they can think of that might want to hurt Christopher.
His parents, they indicated that Chris was having problems with a girl's father that lived down the road. Other than that, Chris didn't have a whole lot of enemies. Chris, for a short time, had a relationship with a girl named Lisa who lived on that street as well.
By the time school started, in the fall, Lisa went back to school and, their relationship fizzled, but they still remained good friends.
The biggest thing that was preventing them was Lisa's dad. He did not like the fact that they were dating at all.
Everyone knew that Lisa's father, Floyd Cousins, was overly protective and controlling of his daughter.
He did not want Chris around his daughter. He had run him off the property a few times.
They still did things together behind Floyd's back, if you will, or without his approval. I mean, certain things like they would ride the school bus together at times, and that was permitted because it was a school bus. But he did not like them going anywhere on their own outside of going to school together or coming back. I think pretty much the people that lived on the street there where this all happened knew that Floyd Cousins did not want Christopher Green around his daughter.
Chris's mother knew that the father threatened Chris previous to this incident that he was going to kill him if he hung around Lisa anymore.
And immediately that's where my parents' thoughts went to. You need to look at Lisa's father.
Investigators knock on Floyd's door and discover a big piece of the puzzle.
My brother had said at one point that if anything ever happened to me, to look at his girlfriend's father as a probable suspect.
They definitely had suspicions that this could be our guy.
State police in Bangor, Michigan, are investigating the murder of 19-year-old Christopher Green, who was beaten and stabbed to death in the dead of winter.
December 2002 saw steady snowfall in the area. It wasn't a big storm system that dumped several inches, but it was consistent precipitation, just adding to that accumulation that was already on the ground.
It doesn't take long for the news of Christopher's murder to spread through the tiny neighborhood.
Everybody was shocked when they heard about Chris's death. It being a rural area, it's rare to see anything of this magnitude.
I can tell you from a lot of small communities, these type of crimes don't happen every day, and when they do, it really impacts people deeply.
The next day, Christopher's autopsy is complete. Thanks to the bitter Michigan winter weather, his body was well preserved.
It is important to know the cause of death. I believe that the weather conditions that we had were perfect for preserving the cause of the injuries that caused Christopher Green's death.
Chris had multiple stab wounds to his face and head, which were through and through. There were multiple stab wounds to the victim's hands, which were described as self-defensive.
Christopher died by drowning in his own blood. His lungs were punctured, I believe, at least 6 times. They had filled with blood, and that's basically how he died. That and the blunt force trauma.
They believe Christopher was beaten, possibly with the tree limb found on his body.
And he wasn't a real big guy, and he didn't have the best of health. He did have a heart condition. So it was pretty clear the aggressor was certainly outpowered him and used a lot of force against him and definitely meant to kill him.
And the knife wounds are consistent with the blade that was found broken off at the scene. It just confirms the amount of brutality used in the attack.
The motive was someone out of rage and somebody who was capable of inflicting serious violence against another human being.
But unfortunately, there is no forensic evidence.
There was a lack of evidence at the scene. There was nothing really to pull all the information together to indicate the suspect.
So the shoes became a factor because there wasn't DNA evidence. So the shoes played a role. The casts that they made and took photos of.
Christopher's family is concerned.
With only them going off of the footprints in the snow, we didn't know what to think. How are they going to find somebody off of these footprints?
Detectives next decide to visit Christopher's ex-girlfriend Lisa Cousins and her father Floyd, who had threatened Christopher in the past.
There was a time where my brother was over at their house visiting, and her dad had said that he needed to leave the house and that my brother was not welcome there anymore. And in that moment, my brother had told my dad, if anything ever happens to me, you need to look at them. I know that my mom and dad were pretty adamant about him being a suspect, and they kept saying, you need to go talk to him. You need to go talk to him.
He might have had something to do with it. He had reasons for not wanting Christopher Green to be around.
That would definitely play into the crime scene and the passion that was involved. I know when they contacted him, they definitely had suspicions that this could be our guy.
When detectives arrive to the Cousins' home, Lisa is out, but her father is there.
They lived less than a quarter mile from where Christopher was killed.
Floyd is less than cooperative with police during questioning, but he does admit to being home that day and seeing Christopher walk by. Troopers immediately check out his shoes.
They did check his footwear and the other footwear that was inside the residence, and there were no matches found.
Floyd Cousins, while he didn't like Christopher Green being around Lisa, we didn't have any evidence linking him to that crime scene. We ruled him out as actually being the person who physically attacked Christopher Green based on his size. He was relatively much smaller and had smaller feet.
Could Floyd have gotten someone else to kill Christopher for him? While the detectives are questioning her father, Lisa comes home.
Lisa was a little more willing to cooperate to some degree.
It's clear she's saddened about Christopher's death.
She was upset. She didn't know what happened and was worried about it.
She says when Christopher was attacked, she was in school.
She did ride the school bus home the day that he was murdered. She got off the school bus and knew that something was going on because the police were there.
Lisa tells detectives the last time she saw Christopher was the day before he was killed, when he argued with her friend and neighbor, Ray Barry.
My brother might have said something about Lisa, and Ray was not excited that he released that information, so he's kind of sticking up for Lisa in a way.
She did not indicate any relationship like that with Ray other than being friends, and they lived next to each other.
Detectives recall Ray Barry as the neighbor who let a concerned citizen use his phone to call 911 and lives directly across from the crime scene. Could Ray have taken his argument with Christopher too far? Troopers head back to the station and dig into the 23-year-old's past.
Ray Barry was a graduate of Bangor High School. He was a very good athlete, particularly a very good wrestler.
And he was usually district or all-state, or he was really good at what he did. I knew him. He rode the same school bus. He was a couple years older than me in school. He kind of kept to himself in a way, but if you made him mad, it was known.
He was known to be a fighter in street boxing matches, but really no reason to believe that he actually wanted to see Christopher Green dead.
They also discover that Ray has a warrant for destruction of property and is nowhere to be found. So police speak to Ray's friends and family that saw him the day of the murder.
So they tracked his whereabouts throughout that time frame, immediately following the murder and, of course, immediately before the murder.
But no one offers up much information.
I know people live directly across the street from where my brother was found, but being the middle of the day, you would think that, somebody saw something.
There was nothing really to indicate that Ray Barry was the suspect. There just wasn't enough physical or circumstantial evidence.
Although they found two people with a possible motive, police are no closer to arresting Christopher's killer.
It was absolutely frustrating. Will they find out who did this?
It will take a decade before the Green family and police get answers, and it all comes back to the snowy shoe prints.
When you have snow like you did in this case, you get those footwear impressions. It's very unique to this case.
The weather played a pretty important role in what was going on.
After the violent murder of Christopher Green in the small community of Bangor, Michigan State Police believe one of his neighbors on 60th Street might be involved. But they have no solid evidence other than the footwear impressions in the snow at the crime scene.
Once everybody that was identified as a potential suspect had been contacted and there were no additional leads, eventually the case went cold.
7 years later, Detective Sergeant Kevin Conklin takes another look at Christopher's case.
Every once in a while, the Michigan State Police would assemble a cold case homicide investigation team that would work regionally, and they would pick up cases that were viable to be solved, and that's what happened here.
I definitely opened the books and went through all the previous reports, detective notes, what was done prior, who was the suspects.
And the same two names rise to the top.
The two people that really popped out in my opinion at the time was Lisa's father and Ray Berry.
But when investigators try to speak to Floyd again, he refuses.
He said, I'm sick and tired of police coming here. I'm sick and tired of being questioned. We want to be left alone.
When police try to find Ray Berry, they learn he's been incarcerated for unarmed robbery in Kalamazoo County.
Ray was in and out of jail himself, in and out of prison. I interviewed him several years later while he was incarcerated.
Ray seems friendly enough until Conklin brings up Christopher Green.
Once I brought up the Chris Green homicide, his demeanor changed drastically. A more serious attitude definitely piqued my interest, but he had not indicated a whole lot of information that I had wanted.
So Detective Conklin focuses on the strongest evidence he has, the snowy shoe prints from the crime scene.
Snow accumulation during the winter in Michigan can be a nuisance for residents, but sometimes that snow is helpful to law enforcement.
Going through the evidence with new technology, we resend a lot of that evidence to the lab to get re-evaluated.
And it's in the footprint analysis that Detective Conklin finds his smoking gun because of a new database for shoe impressions.
Every day when you wear your shoes, you're making new, unique marks on them. Cracks, cuts, dips, divots, those sorts of things.
We were able to take those footwear impressions, plug them into the database, and determine that these could have belonged to a couple different types of shoes, New Balance being one of them.
With this new information, Conklin decides to re-interview witnesses.
They were given the resources and time to re-interview all of the witnesses and to go over all of the evidence.
People's relationships change. They may be more willing to talk about things that they weren't back then. They're more cooperative with police.
And that's how they develop new leads. And so that's what happened in this case for sure.
As detectives interview past witnesses, they start to narrow their focus to one suspect. And it's not Lisa's father. They learn that someone else also had a crush on his daughter.
Ray Berry also liked Lisa and wanted to date her, but saw Chris as a threat to that relationship.
He knew that my brother also had a thing for Lisa, and she wasn't really wanting to be with either one of them at that point.
Then one of Ray Berry's friends finally opens up about what she knows.
She had contact with Ray Berry the day of the murder, before the murder, and she noticed specifically how well dressed he was and how nice his shoes were. She saw him later that day, and he was all dirty and wearing different clothes, and he no longer had the shoes on, and she specifically noted that they were New Balance shoes.
Another witness also admits that she was the one who bought the New Balance shoes for Ray.
She had indicated that he was very proud of the shoes, but the day of the homicide, Ray ended up at her apartment. Ray was very nervous, he seemed disheveled, and he did not have his new shoes on anymore.
He was not somebody who was wealthy that had a brand new pair of shoes every day, and the fact that he got rid of those shoes shows that he had something to hide.
While it looks like Ray Berry is their guy, Detective Conklin isn't confident he can prove it until he gets a phone call out of the blue. A decade after Christopher Green's murder, Michigan State Police get an unexpected call.
A lot of times that's how cold cases are solved, is a case or information pops up.
The caller is Ray Berry's half-brother, Claude Taylor, and he says he knows Ray killed Christopher.
The evening of the homicide, Ray showed up and seemed very nervous and worried. He was disheveled, and it was at that point that Ray had made some type of admissions that he was involved in this homicide.
But Claude wants something in return for this information.
Claude had gotten himself into some trouble. As the years gone by, Claude got a job and a new family and really straightened himself out. But then some old case come back to haunt him, so Claude thought he could buy himself some credit and not have to go to prison.
When investigators learn that Ray is about to be paroled and back on the street, they know they need to act fast.
And we struck a deal with him to where he would meet with his brother, Ray Berry, to see if he would tell him what happened.
Will investigators finally get what they need to charge Christopher's killer with murder?
At that point, I'm like, oh my gosh, will there be justice for my brother?
Although the Michigan winter can be difficult to work in, this time it was essential to law enforcement in the investigation of Christopher Green's murder.
It was definitely helpful to have that crime scene discovered as quickly as it did with the snow.
I highly doubt that they would have recovered any footwear impressions, given the location, had it not been for the snow.
And those shoe prints not only led police to the knife, it led police to Ray Berry.
The shoes really played a role. The footprints that they were able to preserve and match to the type of shoe that the suspect was wearing, that was key.
But investigators still need more for an arrest.
I think they had that circumstantial evidence, but what they needed was a confession.
And they're about to get it. After police make a deal with Ray's half-brother Claude Taylor, he decides to help them try and get Ray to confess to Christopher's murder.
It was decided that we would wire the half-brother up and strike up conversations with Ray Berry.
With police recording the entire conversation, Claude visits Ray multiple times.
We had met with Ray on several different occasions, waiting for that moment. And it wasn't happen until one evening did he admit that Chris had begged him not to kill him as he was beating him up.
It's enough to arrest Ray Berry for the murder of Christopher Green, and prosecutors prepare for trial.
At that point, I'm like, oh my gosh, is this real life right now? Will there be justice for my brother?
On January 23, 2014, 12 years later, Ray Berry goes on trial for the vicious murder of 19-year-old Christopher Green.
The physical evidence where Christopher was killed, with Ray Berry's admission to his brother and all the other evidence that we have, we were able to piece it together.
Prosecutors say they believe that Ray wanted Lisa all to himself and was fuming after fighting with Christopher the day before. He just needed the right opportunity. And that's when he saw Christopher walking alone on the morning of December 9th, 2002.
Chris was walking home from Benny Washington's house trying to deliver some venison to a friend.
He saw him out the window, quickly made the decision to arm himself with the kitchen knife and run out there.
Ray Berry chased Chris Green down where a fight ensued on the side of the road on the ditch where Chris was stabbed several times. The knife broke, which time Ray grabbed a tree branch that was readily available in the ditch and began to beat Chris with it.
Ray Berry kills him right there in the ditch across the street from his house.
Which time he threw the tree limb down and fled north through the snow,
leaving a trail of snowy shoe prints in his wake that ultimately turned out to be his undoing.
Having the database to identify what type of shoes those were verified witness statements to whose shoes those were or could have been. It actually helped solidify the whole case.
But Ray's defense comes back with other possibilities to give the jury reasonable doubt.
The defense presented that the injuries that he had were consistent with him being run over by a car and knocked off into the ditch, and it was very inconsistent. They also tried to point out that if it was a brutal attack, it was somebody other than Ray Berry, and that we didn't have Ray Berry's shoes, and it was really just kind of smoke and mirrors as far as I'm concerned. And I think it was pretty clear that Ray Berry is the one that killed Christopher Green.
And the jury agrees. On February 6, 2014, Ray Berry, now 34 years old, is found guilty of first-degree murder. He is sentenced to life in prison.
It was definitely a tough time to sit in there and hear all of that, but at the same time, it was eye-opening to know what kind of person we're dealing with.
After a long time coming, the Green family finally gets justice for Christopher, but it'll never bring him back.
I definitely feel that it was senseless. There was no reason for this to have happened. Just getting to see him live his life and, you know, just being supportive of each other. That's something that I'll never get to have.
Christopher Green really was such a kind and innocent person, and here Ray Berry, for really no good reason, makes up in his mind that it's going to be a good idea to kill him. It is absolutely a tragic crime and disregard for life.
And Christopher Green's murder may have gone unsolved forever if it wasn't for that snowy Michigan winter.
The snow, preserving the physical evidence at the crime scene, were hugely beneficial to us solving this case.